I arrived at my son's wedding and said my name. The staff at the Aspen Lodge looked confused. Your name is not here. The guest list on the tablet glowed cold white. No Thomas J. Callahan. I stood in my wool overcoat, snowflakes melting on the cuffs, while a string quartet tuned inside. I found Ethan near the ice sculpture, a swan, wings spread, already weeping. Tuxedo black, smile practiced. His bride, Lila, in ivory silk, laughed at something a groomsman whispered. I touched his elbow. Ethan, they say I'm not on the list. He rolled his eyes, same flick he'd used at 16 when I grounded him for sneaking out. Did you really think you'd be invited? The words landed like thrown gravel. I smiled, said quietly, understand now, and I walked away into the snow. The lodge doors closed behind me with a soft thump. Outside, the storm had begun in earnest fat flakes, erasing tire tracks, muffling the music. I didn't look back. I'd driven 6 hours from Denver in a rented Suburban, the kind with heated seats I never used. In the passenger footwell, a leather folio, Daniel Boone wax seal, my initials embossed. Inside, the revised will, notarized yesterday in a strip mall office in Aurora. Ethan's name stricken. The bulk of the estate, $47 million in timberland, mineral rights, and a quiet stake in a lithium mine, rerouted to a donor-advised fund. Beneficiaries: 3 scholarships at Ethan's old high school, a battered women's shelter in Billings, and a single irrevocable trust for his unborn child, should one ever exist. Administrator, me. Condition: Ethan never touches a dime. I'd signed it with the same pen he'd stolen from my desk at 14. Back at the lodge, Lila's father, a hedge fund titan with a voice like a foghorn, was toasting new family. He didn't know the old family had just been erased. I reached the parking lot. My boots crunched salt and ice. A valet jogged over, breath pluming. Sir, need your ticket? I handed him 100. Keep the car warm. I'll be back in 10. I wasn't. I walked past the shuttle vans, past the ice bar where guests sipped hot toddies, and kept going down the service road into the tree line. The snow swallowed sound. My phone buzzed. Ethan. Dad, come on, don't be dramatic. I powered it off. At the edge of the forest stood the cabin I'd bought in 2008, off-grid, solar roof, no address. I told Ethan it was a hunting shack. It was my contingency. Inside, a fire already crackled, set by Mrs. Alvarez, the caretaker, per my text en route. On the pine table, a bottle of Lafroig 25, 2 glasses, and a single envelope. Ethan's childhood handwriting on the front. For when you finally get it. I'd written it the night he totaled my truck and blamed the deer. I poured 1 glass. The fire popped. Outside, the wedding lights flickered through the trees, tiny, distant, irrelevant. Phase 1 was complete. Tomorrow, the lodge would discover the catering bill, $180,000, had bounced, the string quartet's check, returned to NSF, Lila's father's Amex, maxed on a security deposit wired to a ghost account in the Caymans. Ethan thought he'd cut me out. He didn't know I'd cut the rope first. I raised the glass to the dark window. To understanding, I said. The snow kept falling, the wedding went on without me, but the real ceremony had just begun. The wedding reception hit full swing at 9 to 17 p.m. I watched from the ridge above the lodge, binoculars fogging in the cold. Ethan's best man clinked a knife against crystal. Lila's father took the mic, voice booming over the PA. Tonight, we celebrate not just love, but legacy. He gestured to a slideshow Ethan at Yale, Ethan closing his first VC round, Ethan shaking hands with senators. No photos of me, none of the summers in the Montana cabin, the nights I taught him to split kindling, the hospital vigil when his appendix burst. Erased. My phone burner, prepaid, was silent. Mrs. Alvarez had already executed step 2. At 9:23, the lodge lights flickered. Generator kicked in, then died. Darkness swallowed the ballroom. Gasps, laughter, phones raised like torches. Then the PA crackled. My voice, pre-recorded, calm as creek water. Ethan, you said I wasn't invited. You're right, but the bill is. The screen behind the head table lit up. Bank statement. $180,000 insufficient funds. Followed by the quartet's bounced check, the florist, the ice sculptor. Each slide a domino. Lila's father lunged for the AV booth. Too late. The final slide, a QR code. Scan it and you landed on a public Dropbox. Ethan's college disciplinary file, plagiarism, expelled sophomore year, record sealed with my check. His DUI at 19. The startup's cap table showing he diluted his co-founder to 3%. The room went quieter than the snow. I lowered the binoculars. Phase 3 was already rolling. Back at the cabin, I opened the folio. Inside, a second envelope, sealed since Ethan's 21st birthday. I'd written it after he called me a dinosaur who lucked into lithium. Contents: a deed to the Montana ranch transferred yesterday to the scholarship fund. A letter to Lila's father, CC to the SEC. Ask your new son-in-law about the $2, 1M consulting fee from Michelle in Panama. A USB drive with audio Ethan, drunk at the rehearsal dinner, bragging, old man's worth 50 mil and still drives a 2009 Tacoma. When he croaks, we upgrade. I poured another finger of Lafro egg. The fire settled into coals. At 10:04 p.m., headlights swept the service road. Ethan's Range Rover fishtailed to a stop outside the cabin. He stormed in, snow in his hair, tux soaked. Dad, what the hell? I didn't stand. Close the door. You're letting the heat out. He slammed it. You crashed my wedding. No, I said. You uninvited me. I just balanced the books. He paced, breath ragged. Lila's dad is furious. The caterer's threatening leans. Fix it. I slid the folio across the table. Sign the acknowledgement. You take nothing. The scholarships take everything. Or the USB goes to the journal at dawn. Ethan stared at the deed, his childhood home gone. You can't. I already did. I stood finally. You wanted a new family. Congratulations. You're on your own. He lunged for the USB. I caught his wrist, same grip I'd used when he was 8, and reached for a hot stove. Understand now? I asked. His eyes filled, not remorse. Calculation. I released him. Drive safe. Storm's getting worse. He left without another word. The Rover's taillights vanished into white. I locked the door. Outside, the snow kept falling thick, deliberate, erasing every track. Tomorrow, the lodge would wake to sheriff's notices. Ethan would wake to silence. I poured the last of the scotch into the fire. It flared blue, then died. The avalanche was only the beginning. Ethan didn't drive back to the lodge. He drove to the county sheriff's substation at 1:14 a.m., claiming elder abuse and coercion. The deputy, a kid who'd once mowed my lawn, recognized the cabin's address. He radioed it in. By 1:27, 2 cruisers blocked the service road. I watched from the loft window, coffee in hand, fire banked low. They knocked. I opened the door in flannel and boots. Evening, Deputy Hayes. Coffee? Hayes flushed. Mr. Callahan, your son says you're being held against your will. I stepped aside. Ethan stood between the cruisers, coatless, shivering. Tell him, I said. Ethan's voice cracked. He's trying to steal my inheritance. Hayes looked at me. I handed him the folio, will, deed, USB, all dated and notarized. Everything's public record by 8 a.m. You're welcome to verify. Hayes skimmed. His partner whistled at the lithium stake valuation. They left Ethan in the snow and drove off. At 3:03 a.m., Lila's father called the cabin landline. He bribed a valet for the number. I let it ring twice. Thomas, he barked. Name your price to make this go away. I watched the fire. My price was a seat at the table. You served me crumbs. He threatened lawsuits. I hung up. Dawn broke pink over the ridge. Mrs. Alvarez arrived with groceries and a tablet. The Aspen Times homepage. Wedding crashes into financial scandal. Subhead. Groom's father disinherits son in real-time comments poured in. Ethan's startup investors DM'd for emergency calls. Lila's father's hedge fund took a 9% pre-market hit. At 7:42 a.m., Ethan returned alone, on foot, boots soaked. He knocked once, soft. I opened. His tux was ruined, eyes bloodshot. I'm sorry, he whispered. Not for the wedding, for the math catching up. I stepped aside. He entered, snow dripping on the mat. I poured coffee. He wrapped both hands around the mug like a child. The ranch, he said. Gone? Signed over at 6:59 a.m. Scholarships are already funded. He nodded, slow. Lila left, took the ring. I said nothing. He looked around the cabin, pine walls, elk antlers, the chessboard where I taught him the Sicilian at 12. I thought you were weak, he said, for keeping all this, for not flaunting it. I sat across from him, weak as needing applause to breathe. Silence stretched. Outside, the storm had stopped. Sun glinted off fresh powder. Ethan set the mug down. What happens now? Now, I said, you learn to split kindling again, and you earn the right to sit at any table you want. I slid a spare key across the table. Guest room's yours. 1 month, no credit cards, no calls to investors. You want back in the will? Start by shoveling the walk. He stared at the key, then at me. For the first time in years, he looked 28, not 38. He picked it up. I stood. Snow's deep, boots are by the door. He laced them without a word. We shoveled side by side until the path was clear. The sun climbed, the lodge lights were off, the wedding was over, but the thawing had just begun. Ethan shoveled for 3 hours without complaint. By noon, the path was a clean white ribbon to the woodpile. He split kindling the way I taught him grain first. Swing true. Each crack echoed off the ridge like a small confession. Mrs. Alvarez left stew and cornbread. We ate in silence. He washed dishes without being asked. At 2:17 p.m., Lila's father's Gulfstream took off from Aspen Pitkin. Flight plan: Teterboro. The hedge fund's PR team issued a statement: family matter resolved privately. Translation: they'd cut Ethan loose to save the brand. Ethan saw the headline on the tablet. He didn't flinch. He asked for the axe instead. Day 2, he fixed the generator shed's sagging door. Day 3, he rebuilt the stone fire ring I'd let crumble. Each night, he wrote in a spiral notebook ledger style, columns labeled debt, effort, plan. I never read it. Week 2, the first scholarship recipient called a girl from Billings, single mom, 3.9 gigapascals. Ethan took the call on speaker. She thanked Mr. Callahan. He corrected her. That's my dad. I just swing the axe. Week 3, the lithium mines quarterly report arrived. Dividend, $1.4 million to the fund. Ethan stared at the number, then at the woodpile. Still not mine, he said. I nodded. Keep swinging. 1 month became 2. Snow turned to slush, then to mud. Aspen's tourists returned. The lodge reopened under new management. Ethan grew a beard, lost a city pallor, learned to bake sourdough that didn't sink. On the first day of spring, a courier delivered a thick envelope. Inside, Lila's annulment papers, unsigned. A post. It in her handwriting. I was wrong. Can we talk? Ethan read it twice, then fed it to the fire. The paper curled, blackened, gone. That night he asked for the chessboard. We played 3 games. He won the third with a knight fork I'd taught him at 10. Good, I said. He smiled small, real, summer solstice. The girl from Billings graduated valedictorian. Ethan drove her cap and gown to the ceremony in the old Tacoma. I watched from the back row. She hugged him like a brother. Fall again. The fund's balance hit $52 million. Ethan's notebook now had a new column, credit. He'd started a tiny house nonprofit modular homes for wildfire victims built from reclaimed timber. First unit, a single mom in paradise, CA. He slept on her couch the night it was finished. Thanksgiving, he cooked the turkey. I carved. We ate at the same pine table where I disinherited him. No toast. Just the sound of forks and fire. After pie, he slid an envelope across the table. Inside, a single page, his handwriting. I understand now. Below it, a cashier's check for $47,000 every cent he'd earned from the nonprofit, donated back to the fund. I looked at him. He looked back, steady. Still not mine, he said, but it's ours. I folded the check, put it in the folio. Then I opened the bottom drawer and took out the original will, Ethan's name, still there, never actually stricken. I'd kept 2 copies. One for the storm, one for the thaw. I tore the fake in half. He watched the pieces burn. Outside, the first snow of the season began to fall soft, deliberate, clean. Inside, the fire settled into embers. The ledger wasn't closed. It had simply changed hands. Ethan stood, stretched. Walk? He asked. I grabbed my coat. We walked the path he'd shoveled a year ago. Our boots left matching prints. The snow kept falling. The past melted behind us.